guys, Katie here. Welcome to my full interview with Mona May, the very talented costume designer behind the hit Disney film Enchanted. If you haven't already, make sure you check out the corresponding episode of Film to Fashion, where I show you how to create your very own fairy tale inspired looks. Don't forget to click subscribe for more great interviews and episodes. Hey Mona, how's it going?
Hi, Katie. How are you? Good.
You got a little friend there as well.
Yes, this is Mishu, my dog, and he's a wardrobe mascot. He goes on every movie with me, and he hangs out in the wardrobe department. So he's seen many stars.
Yeah.
It's a mini husky.
Well, today, Mona, I was really hoping to mostly talk to you about your work on Enchanted. I think it's so cool, such an interesting concept that it really blended that animation and also live action together.
Yes.
So, yeah, what was kind of the process behind that for you, for the costume designer?
Well, it was pretty amazing to get the script. I haven't really seen anything like it. I did a little bit of CGI work on Stuart Little 2. So it kind of gave me the experience of, understanding the script and kind of the high concept of seeing the people in 2D animation, which is flat, to live action and then CGI. So it was pretty amazing to work in the three mediums and create kind of the true fare of all the costumes looking, the same.
So working on all three mediums, was there any particular challenges that arose with working in such a unique brief like that?
Absolutely. It was really, I think, revolutionary to have all these three mediums, and I don't think a movie has been done like that before. So it was definitely challenging to figure out all the platforms. For example, when you begin the movie with the 2D animation, I worked very closely with the hand-drawn animators, the 2D animators, to create all the costumes for Giselle. And we actually had to create like a sample of the dress, the first dress that we see her in, and have Amy Adams actually acted out and filmed her dancing in like a sample dress, so they know how the material moves. When she twirls around, it was really interesting. How much details goes into the animated world, even though when you're looking at it, it's very flat.
You speak about that first dress that she wore. It looks like it is a lot of fabric. How much time and effort went into making that, and how many team members are working on that one garment?
Well, it's so interesting. I mean, the animators, it's probably 40 animators. And then I have a big team when we do movies like this, because I have the illustrators, I have the seamstresses, they have to make the patterns. I have the silk screeners, I have the beaters, people who make the leather shoes and belts, people who make the hats. It's quite extensive process. I mean, the prep time was about a year. For the wardrobe department to organize everything, between starting with the animation. That was kind of our first foray into the designing, and it's really important for the designer to be part of it, because when they were designing the character Nathaniel, which was Princess Edward's sidekick, and they started drawing the animated character, and the costume that they drew was a little tiny shorts with tights. And once the actor got cast, which was Timothy Spall, and he was quite a heavy gentleman, I had to go back to the guys and go, okay, guys, I think I have to redesign the costume, because I can't imagine a heavy-set gentleman running around in Central Parks in his little tights, So it's funny how always... as a designer, you have to come in and work with the character's body, with the actor's body, to really think about the practicality of things as well. When you look at the animated cartoon characters of princesses, what do you remember as a little girl? Tiny little waist, big sleeves, big poofy skirt. And the director, Kevin Lima, really wanted to make sure that the proportion of the animated character is the proportion on the human being. So, you know,
Yeah.
to make Amy Adams' waist tiny and the big sleeves, the dress became humongous. You know, I mean, I think
Yeah.
I've used about 100 yards of fabric just on the skirt.
How did she go, like, moving around in that outfit between takes and everything?
You know, she was amazing. I mean, Amy was just such an amazing collaborator. You know, there were many, many fittings for the dress because we had to create a metal skirt hoop underneath. There were many layers of the fabric. I also kind of designed the dress that the top layer with the bustier and the overlayer was one. So we actually could undress her quite easily from underneath. So she could actually take the hoop skirt off and many of the layers to sit down and relax in between, you know, longer setups.
Yeah.
But she never complained. I mean, you know, for the skirt to probably weigh about 40 pounds, we actually had suspenders under the dress for it to kind of not weigh her only at the waist. And she never complained. You know, she's just unbelievable professional and such a beautiful person to work with. You know, she loved the character so much that she just wanted to be perfect.
Yeah. It is an amazing character, I must say, and I think one of the parts I really love is how in the beginning, you know, she has her wedding dress, her looks are really larger than life, and then as the film goes on, we kind of see her take a little bit more of this new modern day world into her outfits as well. What was sort of the process behind having that?
Exactly what you're saying. It was very important to show that she's shedding kind of that characteristic of the cartoon, you know, that included also the makeup. So, you know, in the beginning, when you see her skin being very perfect, the eyelashes being very big, you know, the hair being kind of piled up with the curls. And as she was becoming more human in a sense, she was shedding it, and very slowly, because, you know, I think I didn't want it to make too drastic changes. You know, it was a slow process. So, you know, from the big wedding dress, then we go into the dress that she makes out of the curtain. You know, it's still very princessy. It was something very beautiful that we want to make sure that looks great in Central Park when she's dancing. You know, there's just so much going on. So it was very important, the color of it, the design. And then, you know, slowly the dress becomes shorter. The next dress is still very sweet, very girly, but then it's shorter. It's something maybe you could buy at Bergdorf's or, you know, Saks Fifth Avenue, something very chic, timeless. To the moment of really the true moment when she comes to the ball.
Yeah.
And she wears the purple dress.
Yeah.
You know, at that moment, the hair is straight, clean, very little makeup. There's almost, you see the imperfections in her skin. The dress is very simple. You see her body shape, you know, which kind of you didn't know before because it was always, you know, the outfits were full. And the color was really important too. You know, it was very interesting, and we took a lot of time to think about what color the dress should be, because it couldn't be red, black. You know, what is a sophisticated color but still very feminine? It was really fun designing the dress too, because I worked very closely with the choreographer. His name is Chacha. He actually is Australian. He works a lot with big Australian directors. And what was very interesting, we collaborated on the dress because I wanted to, he showed me some old movies, you know, from the 30s and Fred Astaire, how the skirts kind of beautifully move when they're dancing. So the layers on the bottom of the dress probably had about 15 or 20 chiffon layers. So when she's dancing, the dress opens up like a tulip, which is just beautiful. You know, it was just so much fun to create something that is so cinematic, you know.
So I was just wondering if I could get your advice on what you think a modern day princess, kind of like an undercover princess living in the modern day world, would wear. What would be their everyday wardrobe essentials? Is there any colors or textures that come to mind?
Well, I think chiffon is very, very much of a material that a princess would wear, and I think that it requires more of a pastel color palette. I think that,
Yeah.
lavenders and pinks and little flowers, even embroidery would be very nice, on some of the material, like in the green dress that Amy Adams wore.
Yeah.
I think, very sweet. So it could have a little puffy sleeves, some kind of a nice low neckline with a full skirt. It's something, quintessentially girly and feminine that anyone can wear. I think that you can find those dresses. You can modify an old dress from, a prom dress from 1950s or something like that.
Yeah.
I think girls could even hand paint it, kind of like make it more of a watercolor feel. I think the layers are always really fun, where the skirts have a little bit of a layering,
Yeah.
a little bit of a petticoat. There could be a little petticoat underneath. A cute little heel, a kitten heel or a little strappy shoe. Simple jewelry. I think that, we don't want to overdo it. I think it's either little gold studs or, little rhinestones.
Yeah.
The little dangly earring could be okay. I think that princess is not a queen, so I think she can be more modest.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of different elements to potentially play around with that. Similar to you, I think like the little puffy sleeve and the nice necklines really come to mind for me as well.
And I think what's fun too, you could totally modernize it. You could like wear it with a little short booty. You could belt it. I mean, you can wear a little fun, funky hat too. So you can kind of, you can modernize and make the princess a little bit more city princess, street
Yeah.
princess.
And speaking of more like that city street sort of element, I suppose that would almost play more into the villain role as well when you think of that. Is there any sort of examples of wardrobe essentials that you would have for a modern day villain?
Wow. Well, always I think it's dark colors. When I was doing the Narissa costume, which I really love in Enchanted,
Yeah,
we used a lot of kind of this oil slick colors. So there were purples and dark greens, almost like emerald. I think layering mesh could be great. Fishnets, pointy boots, a little bit of patent leather.
yeah,
Gloves are great. A little bit fingerless gloves, like kind of
yeah,
a la Madonna could be great.
yeah.
I think, hats are always fun. I think, hats or scarves could be great.
Yeah, I think with the villain, I'll definitely have fun playing up with the accessories a little bit more, as opposed to the princess, keeping it a little bit more simple with the accessories. So
Yeah,
that'll be
it's
fun.
it's a little bit harder, but I think still can be feminine. It
Yeah,
doesn't have to be super masculine with big shoulder pads. I think we can
yeah,
still show a little bit of skin and have some fun with it.
yeah, definitely. And like you mentioned, you loved the Evil Queen Narissa's outfit. It looks very, very intricate. How much time was spent on that outfit?
It took a time to design thing. I think all the characters it took a while to design because you kind of upgrading on reinventing quintessential characters that everybody knows through their lifetimes growing up. So you have to stick to the past, but also how do you change it a little bit? And with
Yeah,
Narissa was really interesting because I think that I kind of pushed the envelope a little bit with her, but also it was the element of the ending of the movie was really important when she turns into the dragon. So I kind
yeah,
of borrowed from that element and brought it into the beginning of the movie. So you there's a little bit of a suggestion of that later of the skin of the dragon, of the colors of the dragon. I mean, her cape that kind of turned into the wings. So it was really fun designing it all, and also always thinking about the 2D animation, live action, and then CGI. It all had to
yeah.
really, really, really be the same, so you understood it's the same character, the same clothes, the same look. But it was so much fun designing her costume because Susan Sarandon was just fabulous. You know, same as Amy Adams. I mean, in the fittings, you know, when you're just wearing the costume, not made yet out of the real material, but out of like muslin, she's standing there and, you know, playing it up like she's the evil Queen Narissa.
Yeah.
And, you know, loving every minute. The material is really interesting. It was leather that was embossed with skin-like texture. And then it was painted with silver leaf, which is like thin layer of silver, actually real silver, that you apply to the leather, and then you paint it with like an enamel paint. So it has that kind of a very metallic, silvery feeling to it. You know, like light travels when you shoot against it. So you know, it was really, really fun to do that costume, to design that costume, and I'm proud of it. You know, it's one of my favorite costumes I think I designed in my career. I'm very, very happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a masterpiece, so you should be proud
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your advice with me today. I'm excited to try and play out my own princesses and villains and see if I can make it a modern day sort of take on things. So thank you so much for joining me.
Of course, and thank you so much, and I can't wait to see what you do.
Yes, thank you.
All right, take care. Bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.